of Sports Nutrition at Penn State University, and I'm a nutrition consultant for Joint Juice and Premier Nutritionals. And I'd like to welcome all the viewers and fans to the Joint Juice live Q&A with Joe Montana. Thanks very much for joining us today. I'd like to begin by introducing our two guests. The first one is Dr. Jennifer Griffiths. Dr. Griffiths is the Chief Mission Officer for the Arthritis Foundation, where she leads the organization's mission delivery areas. Our second guest is, no introduction needed, I know, Joe Montana. Joe is the Hall of Fame quarterback and four-time Super Bowl winner with the San Francisco 49ers. Thank you, Jennifer and Joe, for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Can I start, Jennifer, by having you talk a little bit about what the Arthritis Foundation is really all about?
Sure, absolutely. I'm delighted to be able to share. So the Arthritis Foundation is the only nonprofit in the United States that's the largest nonprofit dedicated to really serving the 50 million people who have arthritis. And one of the things I learned when I joined the organization that I hadn't known before was that in fact there's even 300,000 kids who have arthritis too. So our mission is all around how do we help those people, help them live better lives. We do research. We fund a lot of research that looks at how do we find new treatments and cures. We also spend quite a bit of time looking for and promoting within our regions exercise programs and health fairs and different ways to reach out to people to help educate them about how they can take better care of their arthritis. We spend some time fighting on the Hill for people, for new policies for people with arthritis, to increase research funding for people with arthritis. And then we also spend time publishing different tips and good living and healthy living recommendations on our site www.arthritis.org to really help people just in their everyday lives in addition to what they do therapeutically. So, for us, one of the things that's key is none of this is obviously possible without the support of volunteers, donors, and in particular partners. And obviously Joint Juice is a key partner for us, and we're really delighted that they've been supporting us, and also with Joe have developed this app of which the proceeds are going to the arthritis. So we're really just couldn't be more delighted with that.
Thank you so much. And now, Joe, I'd like you to take over by telling us a little bit about how did you get involved with Joint Juice?
Well, unfortunately, I had a few injuries in my career, and one in particular on my left knee is I've had probably 6 or 7 orthoscopic surgeries to remove some cartilage. So eventually I found myself a little bit bone to bone, and I've been there a number of years, and I heard about a doctor in San Francisco, an orthopedic doctor that was working on this partial transplant of a knee, and since I only had one compartment that was bad, I thought I'd go visit him, see how it worked, and he said I really wasn't a candidate, and his name was Dr. Kevin Stone. He said I wasn't a candidate for that at this point in my life, so maybe I should try this product that he was working on, and at the time called Joint Juice, and he gave me some to try. And athletes are always looking for ways to keep themselves healthy or better themselves, and so I told him I'd give it a try, and I almost gave up on it because it does take a number of days to get into your system. But once I got involved and had it fully ingrained in my body, it's not like you take a pain pill and it's gone. It's one of those things that kind of goes away, and then you start feeling a little bit better. And when you stop taking it, I travel and I forget sometimes that I don't have it with me, and all of a sudden I'm going, wow, my shoulder's bothering me, or my elbow or something. And I remember I forgot my Joint Juice and hadn't had it in a few days, so that's when I noticed it the most, and it's really been helpful for me to stay active because I'm pretty active. We've got 4 kids and 2 younger boys. Say younger, geez. The youngest one just turned 21 the other day, so they keep you active.
Well, thanks so much for that information about why you got involved with joint juice. And it sounds to me like you may have wished you could have had some joint juice while you were still playing football. Might not have been a bad idea, huh?
Well, yeah, I had it been or had I thought about it or found it back then, yeah, definitely, because one of the toughest days for the player is getting up on Monday. So anything that can help you, unlike a lot of places where people go, well, I'm sick or I'm hurt, well, I get a couple of days off of work. Guys don't want days off work. They really try their hardest to get back in time. They want to be at practice every day because they know it's important for what's coming up on Sunday. And careers are short, so you don't want to miss any time.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, I want to just keep you for a second. Can you tell us a little bit about this new app that Joint Juice started called Throw with Joe?
Yeah, it's a fun little game on the Apple system where there's a little football and there's some players that are coming at you and you're trying to move the ball down the field, and there's a little Joint Juice bottle here and that gives you extra points if you can get it. You're trying to avoid the players, and if you hit my helmet with my number on, you kind of get invincible for a few seconds and you can run players over, and it gets harder and harder as you go along. But I think the real key to it is that you can go to throwwithjoe.com and find out a lot more about it and where you can get it and how you can get it. But it's only 99 cents, and all the proceeds go to the Arthritis Foundation. And that's one of the things I love about Joint Juice. They're always trying to find ways to give back, and this is what they've chosen this year.
Okay, thanks a lot. So now we're going to talk a little bit about arthritis, the Arthritis Foundation, and about football. And I'd like to take this time to jump into some questions with both Joe and Jennifer. So what you can do is you can tweet your questions for Joe using the Ask Joe hashtag, and he's going to answer them for you now, as well as Jennifer. So I'm going to read the name of individuals who have sent us some questions, and so I'd like to start with Charlie, who is asking Joe, you have one of the greatest careers in football. What would you have done for a living if you wouldn't have played football?
Well, I also like basketball. I probably would have tried basketball in college. I had a few offers there. But I had the strangest thing. I love marketing and I like product design. And I really, strangely enough, I don't smoke. And so it's kind of strange. But every time years ago when cigarette packages were more prevalent as you checked out of the grocery store, I was always enthralled by the packaging and the design and what made somebody buy one that seemed to taste the same as the other one over another one, and I came to the conclusion it had to be packaging. So I kept looking at like all the major brands that are out there and then the new ones coming up, and I don't know, I think I would have probably been in design somewhere.
Okay, so I've got one more question for you, Joe, from Ben. Right now, he wants to know, of all your Super Bowl championships, which one had the most favorite moment in it?
Well, there were two favorite moments, so it's really hard to go without saying both. One would be the first one we went to on Super Bowl 16, when the first time we walked onto a Super Bowl field, when it felt like the yays and the boos met on the 50-yard line. And then the other would be, obviously, as a kid growing up in my backyard, I threw a touchdown pass to my neighbor at least 1,000 times to win the Super Bowl. So the touchdown pass to John Taylor to win the Super Bowl against the Bengals, Super Bowl 23, probably was one of the best moments for me.
Okay. So I have a question for Jennifer from Danny. Danny's mom is an arthritis sufferer, and he wants to know what are the top things she could be doing to stay active and feel good.
Sure. So I think the first thing is that, as Joe mentioned, when he was not feeling so good and having some pain, he went to see his physician and talked to his physician about what treatments were going to be the best for him and his disease. And as he said, what he thought might work was not right exactly, and his physician recommended some other treatments that were quite successful. Everybody is individual, and so you need to, first off, go see your physician and find out what is the right treatment and treatment plan for you, because they're really going to help you individualize that. On your own, though, obviously one of the biggest things about arthritis is to keep moving. And so whether it's walking and just getting out and doing some exercise each day really has a very profound impact on how you feel and how your joint pain is. The other thing that people can do a lot of, and is very important for us as an American, is to think about our weight. And so for every pound of weight that you lose, it takes about 4 pounds off your knee. So be sure to manage your weight and that you're paying attention to this, because that can really make an impact as well on how your arthritis feels.
Okay, thanks. So Joe, back to you. This is a question from Lance. He says, you took some mean hits like a champ. How do you feel about the league babying the current generation of quarterbacks?
Well, usually the people who complain the most about the quarterbacks are the defensive linemen, and they are the most protected group by far. More rules have been changed to protect those guys than anybody else, but yet, that being considered, I think they're just protecting him in the wrong way. Guys don't mind being hit. That's part of the game. But unfortunately, we're the only ones that are hit standing still. And it's not the hit really that gets you. It's that extra step they take. And instead of just tackling you, they get you off balance, and then they compress you in the ground. And that's where the majority of injuries happen for quarterbacks. It's not through a hit. Yeah, on occasion there's a nasty looking thing like happened to Joe Theismann, which is more freaky than anything. But in most cases, that compression in the ground, especially when I was playing, I was 195 pounds, and I'd lose every battle to a 325-pound guy when we get on the ground. And that, unfortunately, is probably what ended my career in San Francisco, was that part of the play. Not the hit from behind that the guy did, but the part where I get compressed in the ground and my chest hurt so bad that I didn't even know my hand was broken. So until after about 10 minutes, when I sat up and my finger was stuck underneath like that, I told the doctor to check it, and he said, "There's nothing wrong with your finger." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure, Doc, but it doesn't belong under there like that." And it was all from the compression on the ground.
Wow. Well, I've got another question for you from Ben, and he says, what was the most difficult part of recovering from your back surgery in the '86 season?
I think the most difficult part was actually getting started in the process of the therapy. I was starting to get lazy. And if it wasn't for my therapist who came to my house every day, between her and my wife, who ridiculing me about I guess I really don't want to play football, whatever else they said to me, kind of motivated me to get up off the couch and out of this chair I was in and start the process. And once I got that going, then it was easy, because, as an athlete, unfortunately, you get used to recovering from injuries. And the minute the doctor said, that injury wouldn't get any worse, playing the stupid game that you're playing, he said. So that kind of left me saying, okay, I'm going to give it all I got to get back.
Okay. So Jennifer, back to you. I've got a question from Allison, and she wants to know, is arthritis hereditary? And if it is there anything young people can do to prevent it, or from doing anything right now to make the odds of when they may get it or when it may manifest itself? How can they avoid this?
Sure, absolutely. So, it is well known that there are genetic and familial predispositions to arthritis. So, particularly for for some of the diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. They tend to have a genetic component. But there are also environmental components that come into play for many types of arthritis, and in particular, if you look at osteoarthritis, and there is a higher prevalence of osteoarthritis among people, for example, who have had joint injuries through sports or different traumas, for example. And so the best thing you can do as a young person as you're thinking about how to prevent arthritis, or if you're worried about it, is make sure you're looking and doing the proper exercises and working with a coach or a trainer if you're in sports particularly, to make sure that the exercises you're doing and the way you're doing them are proper and appropriate, and the coaches and trainers are familiar with this. The other thing is, obviously, as Joe well knows, wear protective gear and make sure you're trying to take care of yourself when you're playing sports.
Okay. So Joe, I've got a great, interesting question for you from Chris. He says, "Hello, Joe. There will never be another quarterback as good as you. But can anyone come as close to your accomplishments? What are your thoughts?"
Well, thanks, Chris, for that. But with the way the league is changing all the time, I mean, you're seeing guys throw for more and more yards every year, more and more touchdowns. Yeah, easily. Records are always there to be broken. I don't have very many records to begin with. Never have, but yeah, somebody will make there. Tom Brady's close to catching up on the Super Bowl side of it. Other than that, that's about all I have left remaining. So everything's going to go by the wayside by the way the league is turned.
Okay. Can I take one more question with you right now from Riles? What were your initial thoughts when you first saw Mark Sanchez and his infamous butt fumble?
Well, it's one of those things that you just are glad didn't happen to you. That's about I mean, I'm sure he wasn't looking, and things like that happen all the time. I mean, it used to be the simple things. When AstroTurf first came around, they call it the turf monster, and because you could just be running and all of a sudden you trip and fall on the turf because it's really sticky. But those are the kind of things you just want to go away. I'm sure there's the famous scene where the guy from the Vikings picks up the ball on a fumble and runs the wrong direction. So he's probably happy that that's happened to Mark, just to get him off the films for a while. But yeah, I'm just glad it wasn't me.
We're glad too. Well, Joe, here's a question for you from Tammy. She wants to know what your favorite ways of staying fit are now that you're not in the NFL anymore.
Well, I try to maintain 6 to 7 days of at least cardio. I try to get somewhere around 40 to 50 minutes. And if I can get an hour, I try to get an hour. It gets kind of boring though, because I don't do a lot of running and things on the ground, so I'm sentenced to the stationary bike or the elliptical or even the treadmill. I get tired of being inside, so on occasion I get outside, but in most cases it's that, or when I get really bored, I'll do part of it there, and then I live on the 41st floor of a building in San Francisco, so I take the steps back up to the apartment, and but I do try to get another 4 or 5 days of light lifting in just for muscle tone on top of that.
Okay, good advice. And Joe, Andy wants to know, did anyone ever say you had no future in football? And he says, which moron might have said so?
I don't remember. I'm sure there were a lot of people didn't think I had a future, especially in the NFL, because when I came into the league, I was might have been 190 pounds. In fact, Dwight Clark was my roommate when we first met. When he saw me, he thought I was a kicker. So I didn't look a whole lot like someone who belonged on the field, I guess, at that point in time. So I'm sure there were a few, but none that I can recall.
Okay. Jennifer, this question is for you. You mentioned in your introduction about the Arthritis Foundation that a surprising number of children now have been found to have arthritis. Do you think that this is due to weight issues, or what is your take on why so many children are afflicted with arthritis?
Sure. So kids have been afflicted with arthritis for a while, and I don't think that for the most part people attribute this to weight. It's attributed to other genetic factors or environmental factors, but there's actually still a lot of research going on as to why do kids get arthritis. There's 100 different types of juvenile arthritis, and so there's a lot of variation between the different types in terms of the genetic origins and what we're going to need to do to treat them as well, and the manifestations. So so I think it's not necessarily a weight issue at that age, but it's more of a genetic and environmental issue that's coming into play.
Okay, and one more question for you, Jennifer. I've gotten the question from Kathy. She wants to know if there are any foods that someone might eat to either help them with arthritis that they already have, or if they can eat certain foods or take certain dietary supplements other than joint juice, maybe a protein supplement or something that might prevent getting arthritis.
Yeah, so the Arthritis Foundation itself, in what we do, we really try and help people understand what the options are, but allow them to make their own decisions. And so the best advice I can give to somebody who's looking for questions on nutritional supplements or alternative therapies is to do your research. There's a lot of information obviously online, and our Living with Arthritis section of arthritis.org has additional information about what's been found and what's known in the research and the literature. But then go talk with your physician, because again, it comes back to what we talked with Joe, that certain things are right for certain people, and there's no one size fits all. You have to be very careful as you look at different supplements and think about them, that you're working with your physician so that you're not being contraindicated with any other medications or things that you might be on. So as the Arthritis Foundation, we really recommend, read about it, make yourself an informed patient, and then go talk with your physician and work together on a plan.
Okay, thank you. So Joe, back to you. I have Kristen asking the question, in hindsight, is there anything you might like to have done differently in your career?
Yeah, I would like to have been born a little bit later so I could make some of the money these guys are making today, or have Jerry Rice a little bit longer in my career. Either one of them would have helped me out.
Can't think of anything else.
Well, I mean, would I like to have played for longer in college? Yeah. Would I like to have played for a team that threw the ball more in college? Yes, but I look back and I really have had a very successful career. I got a great opportunity in the NFL. It's really hard to blame or fault anything that's happened. Yeah, we're all going to have ups and downs, and as far as I'm concerned, my downs were pretty minimal.
Okay, I've got another one for you from Charlie. He says, we have some of the craziest fans in San Francisco. What was your favorite fan moment?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of great moments with fans, but I think some of the, I won't say crazy, but one day there was a guy that had a San Francisco 49er emblem tattooed. I can't remember if it was either on his arm or his calf. And then he wanted me to sign right below it so he could have it tattooed onto his leg or arm, wherever it was at that point in time. But there have been a lot of great moments. We do have great fans in San Francisco, and it was a lot of fun playing here.
Oh, that's great. Well, what about this, Joe? I have a person that has asked, has the game changed much since your glory days? He's just curious about what's happening in the field of football today.
Yeah, it's changed. It's changed a lot. It's defensively. There's when I first came in the league, there were certain, I won't say rules, but you're taught, and when you see a defense line up, there's certain things by how the defensive front lined up. That would kind of dictate things they really couldn't do because they tried to stay pretty sound. on the defensive side. Now they don't care whether they're sound or not. They're going to, because the rules have changed on the offensive side to make it easier to throw the ball. The real way to slow that down is to get to the quarterback. And so they think, and they try to disguise blitzes to overload areas that they think by the time you figure out who's open, they'll already be, back in the quarterback's face. So it's changed a lot in that way, and free releases pretty much on the outside for wide receivers, and the quarterback not being hit as much, allows you a little bit more freedom in your mind to think, okay, I can hang on to this just another split second and make sure I'm seeing what I see.
Okay. Well, I have one other question from an interesting fan in Germany, and it's from Sandra. She says, truthfully, I'm your biggest German fan. Will I ever have a chance to meet you in Germany?
Well, I don't know. The NFL plays over there now, and every now and then I get asked to go to one of those games. But I think the closest I'm coming, I'm actually involved in a football camp in Trieste, in Italy, in the first couple of days in August. I think it's the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of August. So that's about as close as I know I'm going to be right now.
Okay. And Joe, I want to ask you a question. And so this is coming from Chris. I want to know, what is your diet like? Are you eating now differently than you did when you were in the NFL?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm trying to, but I think is part of it. You try to maintain a healthy weight and eat right. My wife is very healthy, so she tries to keep me on the beaten path, and I have that unfortunate love for like cheeseburgers and steaks. So I try to keep those to a minimum as much as I can, and eat a little more chicken. So, sorry about the commercial. But it's just, I'm eating a lot different because back then when you're working out as hard as you go, you need as many calories as you can just to try to maintain weight. And especially for me at the weight I was playing, it was hard enough to stay at that weight because I still wanted to get lighter by nature at that point in time.
Can you reveal what your highest playing weight was versus what your weight is now?
Well, I normally played right around 192. When I came back from that back surgery, I weighed 187. The highest I was ever in San Francisco was 195. And unfortunately, though, when I got to Kansas City, they made me lift 5 days a week, heavier lifting than I was doing, and I went to 208. And I felt like a slug, though. And I don't think it was a good playing weight for me, just because part of what I do was move in the pocket and buy time, and I could run if I had to, but I got caught from behind one time, and just enough to where I hyperextended over top of my leg and tore my hamstring, and I told the head coach at the time, I go, see, this is what happens if I was fat, if I was 195, the guy would have never caught me. And I would have never had a hamstring because I didn't even know I had one until now. Wow. So I didn't have any muscles back then.
All right. Well, I want to thank all the viewers and fans for sending in their great questions for both Joe and Jennifer. I want to thank Joe and Jennifer for being on the Hangout with us today. This was just great, and I want to thank Joint Juice for sponsoring this Hangout and this great Q&A with Joe and Jennifer. I want to remind all the fans and viewers to download the Throw with Joe app at www.throwwithjoe.com. Again, like Joe said, it's 99 cents, and it all goes to the Arthritis Foundation. You can download the app automatically, and if you do, you get a chance to win a trip to San Francisco to meet Joe Montana in person yourself. So I want to thank everyone, and I don't know if we have enough time to do anything else to have Joe give another piece of information about the Throw with Joe app. Joe, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, it's just been fun, and it's been great being a part of my first Google Hangout. So thank Doc for uh, also joining us. It's fun to hear other points of view, and especially places where we all can use help and suffering, and it's fun to hear that the number sticks in my mind that for every pound it's 4 pounds on your leg, and so I'm going to go back and work out and try to lose some weight and get back down to playing weight. I'm going to make that my goal. Actually, it was funny. I weighed in this morning. I'm not going to tell you what I weighed. I weighed in this morning, and I have a bet with 2 other guys that we're going to. I'm getting back down to the playing weight within 60 days.
Should we have our fans and viewers start taking bets on this?
Yeah, I'm going to get Vegas to set a line first.
Jennifer, I want to give you a few last minutes. Do you have anything else you'd like to tell the fans and viewers before we close out the session today?
No, I mean, this was wonderful, and thank you all so much for being a partner, particularly Joint Juice. We really appreciate the support, obviously, as do all the people who I know are out there listening who have arthritis and are really happy to have the additional support that's being provided by Joe and Joint Juice towards the cause. And although I do want to know what level Joe has gotten to on the app. That's my one question.
I think you're ahead of me right now. Actually, I've gotten to about 11 or 12. I didn't look the last time, but I was at 11.
So this is going to be my goal, is to beat Joe on the app.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to play
Great.
right now.
Okay, thank you everyone. It was a great Q&A session, and again, Jennifer with the Arthritis Foundation, thank you so much. Joe, I'm rooting for you getting down to your pre-NFL weight. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Thanks, you guys.